Hi folks, how are you doing? Here we are back in business with Elite Chess, and this time we have the second Grand Prix of FIDE in this 2014 year. And after Baku we have another former Soviet Republic there. Tashkent is the city which was chosen to hold this second Grand Prix, capital city of Uzbekistan, if I'm not mistaken. I hope not to be blundering that one. Anyway, let's see one of the games from the first round, a rather interesting game in which we see Hikaru Nakamura with white pieces and Badur Jobava, the creative player from Georgia. Good thing he was invited to this tournament, to this event, in my opinion. He never chooses dry drawish lines, and he's always showing fighting spirit and creativity on the board, so he will not let us down, you can be sure. Nakamura white, Jobava black. We had d4 e6, and after 2c4 Jobava plays the unusual bishop b4 check, but that's something very usual on him actually, to play unusual moves, new style, and not to play always the same stuff. This is called the Keres defense, I think it's if I'm not mistaken, or something. But anyway, after knight to d2, knight to f6, a3, bishop e7, knight gf3, we're now in a more familiar position. This is, I think, a Bogo Indian defense, more or less standard stuff. Here, well, Jobava castles, allowing white to take all the space with e4. This is a personal opinion. I would have played probably d5, controlling e4, not allowing e4 to be played that easily, but okay, it seems castling isn't bad either here. Based on this interesting idea, after e4, of course, white has all the center. c4, d4, e4, good looking pawns there. But he's somehow behind on development, and black has already placed his knight on f6, the bishop on e7, he's castled. Now he plays d6, preparing to play this idea after bishop to d3, e5. A very creative and interesting move in my opinion. And well, at the first sight, at least for me, it wasn't that easy to see what was going on, because apparently it seems that white is winning a pawn on e5, but there is some little detail. As you can see on the d file, this bishop on d3 is not protected, which is the key to the e5 move. Let's say if white was to capture here, d takes, now if knight takes, the knight is protecting back the bishop on d3. But here knight bd7 is suggested to be possible as well, but I guess knight g4 is the most concrete move here to keep equality and prove that white wasn't winning that much. Now this knight is under attack, and if he was to take with the knight on g4, now d3 is not protected, so queen takes d3, and so on. So this was just to illustrate that how interesting this idea of e5 was by Jobava. Really a creative and imaginative player, as you can see, as you know. Instead, Nakamura just castles. Of course, he's an elite player, he can see these kind of easy things. Now Jobava takes, knight takes, and plays knight to c6, allowing this ugly looking doubled pawns on the c file, but on the other hand they are not on an open file yet, these c pawns, so the c file isn't open yet, so these pawns cannot be attacked that easily. And black has a couple of open files for his rooks if he wills so, to put the rooks on e8 and b8. So well, not an ideal setup, but not a bad one, definitely not bad for black. Knight b3, this knight is going towards a5 to attack the c6 pawn, as we're gonna see. Rook e8, and there it goes, knight a5, attacking immediately the weakness, the unprotected weak pawn on c6. Bishop to d7, bishop f4. Nakamura keeps improving his pieces, developing the bishop. Now bishop f8, giving freedom to the rook to attack this pawn again on e4. Rook e1. Now he plays h6, an interesting idea. As we're gonna see, he's going to place the knight on h6, on h7, sorry, then to relocate it. h3 and knight to h7. Bishop f6, queen to f6 could be an idea, and the knight will later go out through g5. So rather interesting setup here. Nakamura immediately pushes his pawn to e5, critical point of the game. He's also opening his light square bishop on this diagonal, possibilities of taking there. For instance, taking here, it seems very bad just because white has these couple of bishops very strongly placed in these central squares, controlling everything on the king side here, on black's king side, of course defending as well, but this really looks scary. Apart from that, black's pair of isolated and doubled pawns look uglier now than ever, so of course taking here wasn't to be considered, I guess. But instead knight g5, this is what Jobava plays, improving the knight to the g5 square. That's what he was thinking about when he played h6, so there it goes. b4, certainly having initiative also on the queen side, looking to have here space advantage. And now Jobava decides to deal with this by taking on e5 first, bishop takes, and now that he has this c file there, he puts the pawn on c5, counter-attacking there. Always a resourceful player, Mr. Jobava, creating difficulties for his opponents, and certainly c5 isn't a bad move here. h4, Nakamura plays an interesting move here, taking advantage of this not that well placed knight now that h4 is available. C takes b4, yes sir, that's a piece sacrifice. As you can see, Jobava is not shying away from complications, and he certainly is right in his position. I mean, he's not getting a winning attack or something, but he's certainly getting a very playable position in which he will have tactical opportunities, compensation, and that's basically what he has to do, I guess, in this position, because otherwise his pieces are kind of scattered around. He doesn't have initiative, he's very passive. So there he goes, he sacrifices the knight on g5, nice game, interesting moment. H takes, he takes with the queen. Some of the advantages of sacrificing the piece here, well, some of the compensation I could see. Well, first of all, the e5 bishop is under attack by both the rook and the queen, and in this same fifth rank we have the unprotected knight on a4, white knight on a5, sorry. So the bishop cannot just leave and let this on Prix. I mean, black is improving his pieces and getting some coordination, so he still has another pawn here, which we're gonna see is going to survive for quite long. So Jobava succeeds here, creating the tactical position in which he's an excellent player, and he creates complicated position here. Bishop e4, certainly calculation is needed in these kinds of tactical positions, but attacking right away the a8 rook seems the correct decision by Nakamura. Bishop goes to g4, another attack, this time against the queen on d1, which goes to b1, and now rook takes finally on e5, the bishop is gone. And the problem, of course, is that the one on a8 is now unprotected. Bishop takes, another critical moment, I guess. Here Jobava could have taken on a5. Certainly the knight there is unprotected and seems a very natural move. In fact, the engine says it's the strongest, but there is not that much of a difference. A takes, now even if the rooks are exchanged on a1, of course white is playing only for 2 results. Black has, I think, a pawn for the exchange, the bishop pair. Yeah, some weaknesses, but I think it's not lost yet. Black can hold for a long while and have his own chances if white is not careful enough. So this was one possibility for Jobava, which he didn't go for. Probably he doesn't like to defend, he doesn't want passive positions, so he tries to mess the position a little, and he doesn't take the hanging piece, he just takes the pawn on a3. Now the knight must move. It goes to, well, first the rook were exchanged on e5, queen takes. Now the knight goes to b3, and he gets his bishop to f5, attacking the queen. Part of the compensation, partly the compensation here is in the difference between coordination of white pieces and black pieces. I mean, black has the bishop pair, and white pieces are the knight, the rook, and the queen are kind of tangled here, chained on the queen side, defending each other, being attacked. And don't forget this a3 pawn, defended a3 pawn, passed pawn on the third, on the sixth, I would rather say, for black. So really creative defense here by Jobava. Nakamura was always better in this game, but we must say kudos to Badur for creating this kind of complications for white, defending with very interesting resources. Now the queen goes to c1 and queen to b2, very interesting and good move. Attacking the queen, the rook, the knight, well, in fact attacking the knight, which is the only unprotected piece here. And of course white cannot afford to take here. I mean, if white takes, pawn takes, and this pawn is going to promote, unfortunately for Nakamura. The bishop is guarding b1, so taking there wasn't an option. Instead knight d2 was played, getting away from the attack. Here bishop comes to b4, attacking the knight once again. Knight to e4, and here not sure if very correctly, but Jobava finally decides to exchange queens. Rook takes, plays a5. He has the bishop pair, but the position, well, is a little bit more difficult than a couple of moves ago. The king goes near, king to f1, bishop d7, and now we're gonna see he has an idea. Unfortunately for Jobava, not good enough, but he has still an idea of trying to make his a pawn a very dangerous piece here. But king e2, bishop a4, this is his idea, to put the bishop on b3 and try to push his a pawn, but kind of desperate because it's not getting there. Then king is now very near on d3, and unfortunately after bishop b3 this plan isn't good enough, and Hikaru will take care of business here. Knight to c3, controlling a2, and after the pawn goes there, just rook a1, the pawn on a2 is gone, and that means the end of the game. Whenever white wins this pawn, even if it's exchanging the bishop for the knight or not, the game is basically over. I mean, white is controlling everything and will slowly improve his king, improve his pieces, and take everything. So that was the first round game by Hikaru Nakamura and Pablo Jobava. A nice victory by the American GM against a resourceful Badur Jobava, which provided us a very interesting game. Thanks for watching.